Can you hear me? The big thumbs up if you can. Ooh, that's okay. Have it all fun. I believe Jim is telling me they can hear me. We got lots. Jim said we'll always do. Glasses can hear me or kill. Awesome. Please like and subscribe, as Cynthia said. Hey, welcome back, guys. Welcome back. I am your host, Cliff Schechter. This is coming sort of from the Cliff's Edge YouTube channel, but most things are Cliff's Edge. We're on Substack too at Blue Amp. We're on Twitch, man. We're on LinkedIn. We're on all the stuff. MySpace and Friendster. You can find us in all of those cool spots. I appreciate your being back here today. I got a bit of a rant coming your way. David Schuster will be joining in a few. Malcolm Nance has a huge announcement here. But I've been trying to hold off, I've lost the war, so to speak. Some of you who read my Substack know that I have finally lost my patience with Democratic leadership. And I don't say this with any pleasure. I don't like ripping into Democrats, but what has happened over the past couple of days, last week has been alarming and angering. And if you can't get as angry as I do and they can't get as angry as I do, then you shouldn't be in this. First, we had Representative Nadler's office, where these thugs, these ICE agents, these low-grade, low-rent Gestapo who show up and have face coverings because somehow they see Nuremberg trials in their future, I believe, but don't identify themselves, don't have a warrant, and just think they can arrest you. These are the things I was taught don't happen in America, or detain you. They did this to an aide in Jerry Nadler's office in New York, his district office. They handcuffed this person, and they did it because they could. If you watch the video, they were so nasty, they were so aggressive, they think they can do anything, and it's always how it happens with authoritarianism, okay? That needs to be stopped now. You need to stand up and speak about it. You need to stand up and plan events around it. You need to show a force, by the way, that you won't give in to them, because we're quickly heading to a place where there will be violence, which I don't advocate. In fact, I advocate nonviolence. But people are going to get sick of being pushed around by these thugs, again, who don't identify themselves. I mean, we always would tell our kids, if some cop tries to stop you on a dark part of the road, you go to a well-lit part. Now, with these guys, what does that mean can happen to them? So let me get to the part with Democrats. This happens. These sons of bitches break into this office and scare the crap out of these people, intimidate, handcuff, abuse, assault. And the response from Leader Jeffries, who I've been trying to give a more of a chance to, is Donald Trump needs to know that he doesn't own us. Really? Jerry Nadler, who I would think, and I've met before and I like as a person, but I would think would be freaking livid, being that it happened in his office, his response was, this is troubling. This is alarming. They didn't just sneak in some provision for like an extra tax cut for yacht owners. That, normal rancid Republican shit, that's alarming. They took away someone's First Amendment rights. They took away someone's, Fourth Amendment rights. They're violating the separation of powers, and they're acting like fascist thugs. That's not how you react to this. So I thought I would give all of you what I would have said. So when they said, oh, this is troubling, this is alarming, sounding like we have, Democratic Majority Leader or Democratic Leader Merrick Garland in charge, I just wrote off the top of my head for the Substack the other day what I would have said. Let me share that with you. Here's my statement if I'm Hakeem Jeffries. Once again, 34-count felon Donald Trump, a convicted criminal, is using his corrupt, cruel, and incompetent administration to attack democracy, just as he did on January 6th. Mr. Trump, listen good. You will not do this again. You will not. We won't allow it. My advice, concentrate on helping farmers you've bankrupted and 401ks you've destroyed with taco tariffs. And pick up an audiobook of the Constitution while you're at it. Because if your thugs step foot in one of my members' offices again without a warrant and in an attempt to detain anyone, we'll resist by any means necessary. I'll call the police. I'll call the FBI. Hell, I'll call Interpol if I must. but you'll either follow the damn Constitution or you'll find yourself on your fat ass back in the place where you seem to be most comfortable in life, a courtroom. Yeah, that's my response. I hope you guys thought it was okay. Why? Why is this so hard? These people accuse us of killing live babies. They accuse us of the most vile conspiracies of getting soldiers killed on purpose. And why is it so hard to stop being conciliatory? Why is it so hard to stop using the language of troubled and bothered by stuff? No, you're not. You should want to throw somebody through a damn wall. This is our democracy, for fuck's sake. What are you doing? And so just when I write that and get past that, we have yesterday's display. Senator Chuck Schumer, our leader in the Senate, I use that advisedly, comes out and responds after Elon Musk attacks the Republican, badly built, butch body, bleach blonde bill, and comes out and Schumer attacks the bill by first saying, I agree with Elon Musk. What are you talking about? The guy that Sieg Heiled, he Roman saluted. The guy that has destroyed lives, deprived all sorts of people of jobs with no warning. The guy that broke into the Treasury Department. The guy that's having daily calls with Putin, turned off Starlink for Ukraine. I'm gonna go through everything here. You want to say you agree with him? Would it have maybe been a better thing to say, Elon Musk? I mean, look at Elon Musk, this insane asshat, this person who broke into our Treasury Department, this person who we were going to be holding hearings daily, regularly to discover the breadth of his data stealing in various parts of our government, who brought his little band of merry incels with him to the Treasury Department. And 5 minutes later, or 10 minutes later, Russians were using the passwords they obtained to try to break in. The guy that likes to Roman salute a hell of a lot. Yeah, that guy who just had to quit Doge, an absolute failure by increasing the deficit and achieving none of his goals. Even he thinks Donald Trump's bill is a pile of crap. See how that's different? Then, I agree with him. Come on, Elon. I'll give you my number if you give me mine. Let's go out to lunch. You don't stand up and use him as like your crutch, as the guy to defend that, like you're Elon says it's bad, so it must be bad. No. You point out how awful he is and say, even that jackrabbit thinks it sucks. Even Rand Paul, the guy who was a jackrabbit living on his head, that I think cosplays as his hair, whose neighbor beat him up, thinks it's awful. This isn't hard, and I don't understand why the hell they can't get it together, but they clearly can't. So please, get us new leaders. I'm so happy that Jasmine Crockett is running, and she's not just following their protocol. She is running to become the ranking member on the Oversight Committee in the House. Yes, do that. Put her there. I want the rest of them. And again, I've said before, I don't care about ideology, within most ranks. AOC, Swalwell, Chris Murphy, Tammy Duckworth. We know who the people are who know how to fight. Dan Goldman referred the other day to this as it was. He said Gestapo-like tactics in referring to what ICE was doing. Yes, that's what it is. That's what you could have said. Representative Nadler, Leader Jeffries. Dan Goldman could say it. Why couldn't you? Perhaps he should be leader. Enough. We don't have time to waste anymore. They are getting increasingly bold. You may have seen in Minnesota, folks were fighting back against them. That's going to increase because if they come up to me, I'm not acting like I'm some courageous, I'm some tough guy. But if somebody comes up to me with a face covering without identification, whatever, you think there aren't going to be copycats out there? And somebody comes up to me and does that and tells me I better come with them. I'm not going with them. Who would? There is going to end up being violence. It will get bad unless we stop this crap now. Call them before your committees. Demand they come before your committees. Hold shadow committees if you are not allowed to hold regular ones because the Republicans in the House won't let you. Go on tours around the country. Put ads on TV. Do everything we've talked about. This cannot stand. This is not America. And if they get away with this, every lesson from history tells you, even if you don't care about people who are immigrants, which you should if you have a heart, but even if you don't, it will be you next. It will be you, a woman who decides that she has the right to speak up when she wants to. It'll be you, somebody who doesn't believe in Jesus as your savior. It'll be you, just somebody who politically opposes Trump. This is the way it always ends. Stop the shit now. All right. That is what I have to say on that. We're going to have a great guest on here, Malcolm Nance, who's going to have a lot to say about hitting back on Trump's little birthday party to see if he can get himself erect that day with tanks and all sorts of other lovely stuff. And I'm going to invite in David Schuster until we get him here. And David can tell me if I went a little too far and maybe I'm just not a very nice person. I don't know.
No, I mean, to take it a different way. I like to sometimes say that sometimes even Fox News, which lies with impunity, which carries the water for conservatives and Republicans, even Fox News sometimes recognizes the facts are so clear that even Fox News, with all their crap, has to report the truth and disagree with it. And so it's not just, oh, well, Fox News says that Donald Trump is wrong. No, it's an organization as evil as Fox News.
Right. You're not conferring legitimacy on them.
So
yes,
I think
you're not conferring legitimacy. You're pointing out that even someone that bad, right? And I mean, it's just, how is this not obvious?
Right. And that's, I think to your point then about Elon Musk and it should be, and credit to Dan Goldman, you were pointing out. I mean, Dan Goldman, when he talked about the Gestapo techniques, I mean, he had just been at a courtroom in Manhattan where people are showing up for their asylum hearings, and then as they're leaving the courtroom, that's where ICE agents who are plainclothes officers snatch them without a lawyer, without due process, without anything. So there's Dan Goldman.
So they could go around the court, right? They wanted to use a different court. I mean, it's unbelievable. So
Goldman is right to say these are Gestapo techniques, although I'm not even sure the Gestapo wore like face coverings or hid their, they were so I think you're right on. I think the Democrats are far too sometimes cerebral. I don't know if that's the word, that, oh, well, this is wrong, or, oh, this is a violation of policy.
Oh, I'm troubled by this. I find this alarming. No, this is bullshit. This is against the Constitution, what our forefathers died for, the history of the United States, and it will not stand. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear some bullshit about, oh, I'm very alarmed that somebody came into my office and detained one of my staffers while their face was covered and didn't identify themselves and, didn't have a warrant. No, not in my country. Not in America.
And you can even, Cliff, I mean, Democratic leaders can even follow the lead of what happened in Milford, Massachusetts, where this 17-year-old kid who was on his way to volleyball practice, he has been in the United States since he was like 2 years old, and ICE agents stopped him while he was driving. And I guess they were looking for his father, but they just said, oh, we'll just take this kid. He's an honors student. He's part of a high school band. He was going to volleyball practice. And so the next day at the graduation, people went ballistic. They marched from the graduation to City Hall. They were screaming and yelling in their graduation robes. They weren't saying, oh, this is terrible that this happened to our school and this is wrong. No, they were taking action, and they were showing how pissed off they were.
I find it alarming that our
schools should be doing.
Right. Use real language. Use emotional language. Emotion works. Passion works. Anger works. Humor works. Sounding like a robotic, failed, grok experiment by Elon Musk does not work. Yeah. Ordering donuts like your JD Vance does not work. I think I see Malcolm wandering around. I was going to let you in for a second, Malcolm, but I don't know if you want people to go on your grand walk with you. So I'll let you in again. I mean, you look pretty cool walking around there. And I'll say this before Malcolm says anything, because Malcolm can sit here and probably give you 50 different stories about this. But I'll never forget, a story that I've told before when I was in Ecuador and we were flying from Quito into Guayaquil, Ecuador on the way home to the United States. And I was in I was in a plane crash. On the runway, our plane, which is a bigger plane, the wing made contact with a smaller plane. Still don't know to this day what happened to those people. I hope they were okay, but don't know. You know why? Because the military ran out, and some of these guys had some things over their bottom of their faces, I believe, if I remember correctly. And they pointed machine guns at us and told us to go inside the airport and not ask any questions and not take any pictures. And this is back in '99, so it wasn't like people had cell phone cameras everywhere anyhow. And we followed their orders because that's what happens in a society like that. I wasn't going to ask questions. I'll bring in Malcolm now because I can only guess that's a circumstance. It's happened to him once when we're off. In fact, one other time, let me say quickly, Malcolm, the irony of this is when I went to Romania on a democracy promotion trip. I've already pointed out the irony in one way. I think we didn't lose. I hope we didn't lose Malcolm. The irony of that, I was sent to Romania in 2004 on democracy promotion when I actually should have been sent to Ohio or, Missouri or somewhere, because Romania is doing a better job right now handling Putin than we are. But I was sent there and I went to look at this very old temple, from 800 years old or whatever. And just walking up to it, there were some guards there and they walked up until they found out I was with the State Department, and they pointed their very large guns at me because they were worried that I might be casing the joint for a terrorist attack. And when you have so I've had these experiences in other countries, but when I'm seeing this happening in the United States of America, I mean, come on in, Malcolm. Add what you can to that before we get to what the Trump ass kicking you're going to do on the 14th.
Help me, Jesus. I've been listening to what you were saying in the run up to this. And, once a week I do a segment on the Stephanie Miller radio. This morning I'd taken a good run. I was out with the dogs. The sun was out. And she immediately asked me a question. When I hear these stories that you're saying about American citizens, or even worse, people who were documented, but were in the system, and now you have Kristi Noem, all right, as cosplay Barbie, and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance swearing to arrest and detain without warrants 3,000 people per day in the United States. The only way that you're going to be able to do this is you're going to have to do this by starting to violate laws. And they have had no problem already violating laws. And my question is, when is the average person going to jump up and go, hey, wait a minute, this isn't what I voted for? You're not. Because 77 million Americans voted for this. They voted for a racist, white supremacist, sexist ideology that is supposed to take what they call America enemies out of this country. And you know what the next step is? White replacement. They know what the next step is. The next step in this crazy path that none of us should even be talking about, because this is so insane, average adults shouldn't be able to grace this with common sense. We're having to rationalize it. The next thing is they're going to want the liberals sent to Guantanamo, or they're going to want more forceful action. There is a extreme 33% of this country. Richard Nixon had them. They were the diehards who wanted Richard Nixon to stay in office after Watergate. The 33% who loved Trump after he lost. I call them the crazy 33. They run this country. That's about right.
In any democracy you look in, you'll find about that third that will always embrace authoritarianism in every study I've seen. So,
well, what did they say? Richard Nixon won with 33% of the vote and convinced the other 33% to kill the last 33%.
Yeah. Malcolm, any satisfaction, though, that even though, yes, the majority of Americans want to get rid of migrants and deport them and all that, there's also a pretty clear majority now of people who do not like the process of denying due process. And so when the polls have been conducted and people say, hey, denying due process, violating the law, grabbing people when they're at the court hearings, grabbing people who are peaceful as opposed to the violent offenders, like, no, we're supposed to only go after the violence, the people who have criminal violence in their records. Any satisfaction that at least the majority of the American people make that distinction?
No. And I say it this way, sorry, I'm here to burst bubbles today. All right. The only
I don't think we're in any bubbles, but you're gonna, yes, you will upset people more.
Well, good. I'll upset them good.
No, I think we need it.
Because we see polls that have 56%, 62% of people saying, yes, there should be due process. Yes, these people should go to a court. Yes, we should adhere to the laws. This administration no longer cares about that. They no
Right.
longer care about what you think. Rules are irrelevant to them. They have now seized power. And I warned this in the first Trump administration. I've written how many books? 5 New York Times bestsellers. 4 of them were about Trump and his relationship to power, Russian intelligence. And the last
Were
one
you able to
was
maintain
about
your sanity during that time? Do you have any tips for the rest of us when you're writing
Well-
4 Trump books?
Well, I used to think that exposing, this is like, as an intelligence professional,
Right.
sunlighting your enemy's intentions generally makes them deter the activities that they're going to do. Not in this case. When
No.
this election was lost, I instantly knew we were going to be where we were. I thought it was going to happen a little faster. That's mainly because the courts have been pushing back. But I was under no misimpressions, right? We were part of the crazy liberal elite who all said, hey, this is going to teeter into dictatorship.
Right. We were also hysterical, as they called us.
Oh, we're
you know,
the
New York Times and
hysterical
places
ones.
like
That's right.
that.
Yeah, well,
right.
that's because, like the mainstream Democratic Party, who believe that every one of them is a source of ration, common sense, and reason, that people can be reasoned with. Well, my last book was called They Want to Kill Americans. Okay. And it was about the people in the Trump, MAGA, who were not reasonable. And I said this on Bill Maher in November 6th, 3 days after the election.
So
and
before
just
his chummy
50
dinner with him.
Yeah. Well, trust me, this is, 4 years ago.
I
I had
know. I'm
said to
just.
Bill Maher, he said, well, now, Malcolm, it's time for kumbaya. It's time to figure out what they want, how to accommodate them. And I was like, no, we're going into insurgency. We are going to go and teeter into where the government, we have 2 types of insurgencies, a political insurgency, and then you have a paramilitary insurgency. And I had warned before the election, only one of 2 options was coming. If Trump had won in 2020, these people would be self-deputized enforcers. And that's what we're starting to see now.
Right.
We have no idea. I'm checking with my friends. I was a private security contractor for years in Iraq, and I'm hearing from friends there are enormous numbers of private security contracts going out right now from the U.S. government for not federal corrections officers, private contract corrections officers, and these bail bond guys to go out and essentially start rounding up people on the
It's always
streets.
about money, private prisons, and
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this, because again, you brought up the Democratic Party, and if you heard some of my rant in there, what made me so angry was I can't fathom if that's my office. And again, I've met Jerry Nadler, and he seems like a very nice guy, but that's not the point here. It's like they say in The Godfather, I need a wartime consigliere.
Oh yeah. You need a wartime Democrat.
We do. We lost Malcolm again, but he'll be back, I'm sure. There we go.
Oops.
And when you're go ahead. Oh, I say when you're in a moment like this, I need people that speak like regular humans that
Right.
can show the emotion of regular humans. I don't want that bullshit talk that somebody slipped a poison pill into a bill or disagreeing on the size of a tax cut or whatever. You need to be outraged and angry. And some Democrats have done a great job. And I mentioned, I'm glad that now I see Jasmine Crockett going to be ranking member. She's trying for it, and I think she's got a great shot at getting it, of the oversight. House Oversight. But we need these kinds of leaders in all of these positions, because the thing that Chuck Schumer did too, which is with the budget bill, to get up and say, I agree with Elon. No, you don't. Even someone as awful as Elon, go through the list of things about him, thinks this bill sucks, so it must suck. That's what you say, as David and I were saying. You don't say, I agree. You don't give Elon credibility. And what was that Mad Men presentation that he got up there and did from like the 60s, where he's like, look at these large tweets that I'm holding up.
Right.
I mean, what is going on here?
The funny thing is, I live in upstate New York, and we just elected a pretty milquetoast Democrat. and he's a nice guy, wears plaid checked shirts, and he talks about farms and cows and dairy things, and he wants to be on the ag committee. My late wife, God bless her, told me, she says, I don't want you to run for office. You're the kind of guy who'll get shot. And I was like, I'll be packing. See, it's going to be an even gun battle, and I'll have a long rifle, and I go, wrong guy. And I told this guy just recently, the first thing he did was he voted for the Riley Lakin Act. His first vote in Congress, right? And
was for their propaganda.
Which was supposed to be this, and he wanted to show, since his district is 55% progressive and 45% Republican, he wanted to show kumbaya.
Right.
And,
I'm a moderate.
I'm a moderate. I carefully consider these things. Each thing has its balance. I'm not in the Democratic Party. Look, I'm going to tell you straight up. Are we allowed to use naughty language here on your show?
All the fuck you want.
All right. I mean, I've gone to some of these people and I have said, the language, I have a new political action committee. I don't know if I told you that, called FAFO PAC.
You did tell me that because I love the name right away.
Yeah. And it stands for Focused Action, Focused Objectives. But it stands for something else too. But I say that we are essentially the Deadpool of the progressive movement now.
Yes.
We are double fingers up. Don't give two fucks what you think. We say we're double fisted, potty mouthed, don't really give a damn what you think, fighters. And we've had enough of kumbaya. We've had enough.
That's why I'm glad that Joe Walsh just joined, because he's somebody who knows how to fight. And we need every fighter we can get. There's some of us that have been Democrats for a while who maybe go ahead next with a question, David. I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
Well, we need fighters. We need people who are willing to get in the ring. We need people who are willing to get in the ring. And Malcolm, you talked about your milquetoast congressman. Maybe you can make some news here. Would you be willing to challenge this guy for the Democratic primary? I mean, everybody knows who you are. You've got a high profile. You got PAC money. You got a lot of people who would support you in a heartbeat and move to upstate New York to help you run. Will you do it?
You also have what we call a bio.
Yeah, well, I'd beat him like a drum. I don't want to call him out right here on the news, but I've tweeted warnings to him that don't make me come in there, right? And there's reasons for it, and I respect my late wife's wishes, but I'm at my point where I have just had enough. You know what the motto of FAFO PAC is? We the people effing dare you. And I love that too. See the Democratic Party acting like I'm going to shut this thing down procedurally, and you want to see what politics is? Knives out. We're going to have politics here. And you can go around and say the Democrats are holding everything up. And you should come to the camera. And when they say, are you holding everything up? You should go, you're goddamn right. We're holding it up in the exact same way that the Sons of Liberty held up tax collectors from the crowd. And if you don't give two fucks about that, well, then you obviously don't love America, because we're dealing with a king and I'm dealing with a Russian-style Politburo calling themselves the Republican Party. My problem is I think there's rules in Congress and I can't act like a Navy chief. Where I can go, get your happy ass outside.
But Malcolm, you can speak the way you do. Like when someone like Eric Swalwell sits there, and Kristi Noem is doing all of our crap, and he's like, "I've got a great bullshit detector. I have 3 children who are, young children." He just compared her to his young children. That's messaging, right? We've got some folks there who get this and know how to do this. The problem is, right now is that virtually none of them are anywhere close to leadership. And they need to be the ones out front calling the shots and being the ones who are speaking back to Republicans. Because again, if you had just spoken like you just did, if someone had spoken like that after they busted into Nadler's office, or after this budget bill, after Elon Musk criticized the budget bill, this is just not difficult. I don't understand. Like, what is difficult about this?
I will tell you what I just recently remarried. I will tell you what I told my current wife, because we were watching the Nadler video and she goes, "What is this?" And I just, I'm a salty old Navy chief. I'm used to being the godlike decision maker. But more importantly, my job in the Navy was to recalibrate stupid. Okay. When stupid presented its face, you
That's
see
your
how my
campaign
hand is coming.
slogan. I
You see how my
recalibrate
hand
stupid.
is. I say, you see how my hand is coming up like this? This is called the knife hand or the blade hand. And it is Army and Navy senior
Right.
enlisted nonverbal talk to say the next step is I'm going to slap you. And the first time I ever did this was on MSNBC, and I was on air with what's the name of that guy? He's a big Trump high advisor, Boris
Let's
Epstein.
see. I was gonna say,
Boris
did he go to
Epstein.
prison or not? Because that, at least,
Yeah. So Boris Epstein insulted a Gold Star family in front of my face. And people wrote to me to tell me what I did because I couldn't remember what I did. And I froze and my hand shot up like this. And I said, "Don't you ever dare insult a Gold Star family in front of me." And I had Navy chiefs from around the world going, "You blade handed that guy. You were going to slap him, weren't you?" I went into autopilot, and this situation with Nadler, it happened to me. I mean, I saw it the other day and I thought, I've been in a few congressional offices and if my staff had said, there are Federal Protective Service officers here coming to handcuff my staff, it would have been like a cartoon where the chair is spinning around empty.
I mean,
And I would
I
have
would
been
have gotten
out
in a
there
brawl with them, to be quite honest. Like, I'm
and
not
it would have
sitting here.
been blade hand. Get your happy ass out of my motherfucking office.
Right.
Get your supervisor down here right goddamn now. And guess what? I
Right.
keep handcuff keys on my keychain. So
You're
you want to
prepared,
you want to
man. I
have an
need to.
issue? We're going to have an issue. The problem is this party all thinks that they are cooling saucers and they all want to maintain the decorum and dignity of the
Oh,
office. Well, when are you going to? Do you think that this is how it was in the Civil War? Everyone was like, "Oh, our soldiers are dying by the tens of thousands per day, but let's maintain the
there
decorum
are
and dignity of the
canings
office."
going on in there, and Charles Sumner got beaten with a cane,
Paintings.
and they were fight. I mean, there have been times like this in history. That's the thing. You know your history. David knows his history. I know mine. To pretend like, oh my God, it's always been this polite debating society. No, it hasn't. You should go back and look at when a guy named Joe McCarthy got up and started saying
Right.
stuff and what ended up happening to him. And I just, it drives me insane. And again, I'm going to kick it to you, David, because Malcolm and I are people. You're good at talking, but I guess we don't. I don't. I'll speak for myself. I don't shut up very well. But I don't even have Malcolm's background. I had some background in the State Department with a bit of a security clearance. I used to be on a rifle team. I know I can handle my guns if I needed to. But none of that has ever. I don't know. Maybe growing up in New York City, I just can't abide by assholes. And when people act in a way like that, when they disrespect other people, when they disrespect your rights, and when they disrespect my country, I mean, again, I'm not trying to act macho here. I'm just saying I know how I would have reacted to those guys trying to come into my office had I been there and arrest somebody, and it would have ended up with me in prison because
That's fine.
What I would have done wouldn't have been good.
Yeah, that's fine. You going to jail is a good example of how senior leadership should behave, how leadership should behave. I come from a world, my family has been in the military nonstop since the Civil War. So I had insane expectations when my dad, who was a master chief in the Navy, joined the Navy at 15 in 1944 and did the Pacific War before he was 16 years old.
Which is incredible if you think about the kind of discrimination that was going on. That's pretty amazing.
They started him out as a cook and then an ammunition carrier and then had him cleaning bodies off of ships that had been hit by kamikazes before he was ever 16 years old. And he taught me the strength of one, understanding the regulations and staying within them to like a laser-like focus, and two, taking those regulations and fucking anyone that fucks with you with 2 centuries of rules that have been made up on people's dead bodies. And,
Yep.
I still have people. I have people who right-wing crazies who come out and say, I knew you when you were 19 and you were an asshole, you were a stickler. And I go, yeah, absolutely right. That's exactly the mindset that I was brought
I'm
up
still
in.
an
And so,
asshole. It's okay.
but you should be an asshole
I'm an
for
asshole
the
for
people,
freedom, is what I like to say.
for freedom. Your staff, your subordinates, no one gets to fuck with them but me. All right.
Right.
I will recalibrate them as needed. But you come into my space. See, I even talk Navy talk. You come into my office, right? And you think you're going to be carrying out some sort of order from whoever, you're going to go through me first. And if that means I go out, I'm going to go out and I'm going to run a press conference too. And I'm going to identify you by name. I'm going to identify you by badge number. I'm going
There
to
you
spend the
go.
rest of my time in Congress calling for your dismissal, your supervisor's dismissal, the director of Homeland Security's absolute dismissal, because she's a nut. And we have people who will sit there and say what I just said in polite terms within the time of their allotted during their debate. It's like,
Yep.
do you
What?
really love democracy, or you just want to be, the controlled opposition as the ship goes down?
Well,
Malcolm, I got to
David,
ask
why
you.
don't you? We need to go
What's that,
ahead. You
Dave?
can answer about anything. We need to get to soon to what Malcolm's doing on the 14th of June.
Well, I was gonna make this transition, right? Because
Uh,
I agree that we should all be assholes, like the people in San Diego at those 2 Italian restaurants when ICE was raiding, and the people
mhm.
literally chased the ICE agents back and was yelling and getting in their faces. That's the way for citizens to stand up. What do we do to stand up on June the 14th when with this ridiculous military parade, and now
Mhm.
Donald Trump's advisors are saying, "Oh yeah, he'd be thrilled if the military sings Happy Birthday," as
Oh,
they're like
God.
tearing up the streets and ruining the bridges. I mean, what do we do?
It's the only way the guy can
well,
get an erection, probably.
well,
All
I'm
right, go
gonna,
ahead,
I'm gonna,
Malcolm.
I'm gonna come at this from two different directions because I have a vested interest in what's happening on June 14th, principally because I call this my Sons of Philadelphia rant. Okay,
Ooh,
I
I
was
love it.
born and raised in a naval hospital in Philadelphia. I was literally raised on the streets around Independence Hall. I joined the Navy because of Washington Park and the quote over George Washington and the tomb of the first unknown soldier. Many men have died in darkness. Freedom is a light in which many men have died, for which many men have died in darkness. I took that very seriously. And then when I got into the intelligence community and I realized 99% of what I'm doing is keeping my effing mouth shut, right? And keeping secrets as part of this grand family to keep every individual American safe. And I live up to that every day. And when I see people who have said, I'm going to directly attack every foundation of the city you come from, that's when start getting mad. I start thinking,
Oh,
fights on. Not we don't want civil war. No one wants that.
no,
Although my last book was about people that were constantly and nearly incessantly calling for civil war.
but
There are a lot
look,
of right-wing
Malcolm,
crazies out there.
because again, as your military background, I just know this from my history background. It's the people that try to put it off forever that inevitably get civil war. Remember,
Right.
we kept appeasing the South for 30 years there, right? There was South Carolina and the Nullification Acts and all that stuff. That didn't work. It was never going to work. If you were going to do
Yeah,
something, you need to stand
but
up
th-
to them. And it still may be a civil war, but at least you have a chance. If we stand
but
up to
they
these bastards
initiated
right
it.
now, there's a chance. If we don't, they
Right.
will definitely end up there.
Well, see, the thing is, they initiated, and here's a little bit of history because I'm an amateur historian. Um, One of the components of the Southern secession of the Civil War is they at least did it with an intellectual basis and an actual grounding to the Constitution. They can leave the United States. It was how they left the United States and the reason that they wanted to leave the United States
Firing
and
on Fort
trying to
Sumter is probably a bad move.
yeah. Well, you want to take over federal arsenals, half the armed forces walks away. We could get to that circumstance very quickly. So
I know.
the basis of my Sons of Philadelphia rant is what led me to create FAFO-PAC, which is like I said, we the people effing dare you to go out here and bring us to the point of dictatorship. So we, as well as a dozen other major groups, MoveOn.org, Hold the Line PAC, Indivisible, are
Nice.
sponsoring the June 14th PAC. Let me explain something very clearly to your audience. 76.5 million people voted for Kamala Harris. Thus far, the biggest protest in American history was on April 5th, and that was 5 million Americans. In other words, only 1 in 8 Americans that voted went out to the polls against Trump thought it was worthwhile to hit the streets. And the Republicans have characterized this as a bunch of old hippies who are going out and protesting this. We are calling for the single largest march in American history. We want to eclipse April 5th, right? We want to eclipse April 5th by 4 to 5 times that number. We don't know whether
I
we'll
love
make
it. You know why?
but
Because
everyone needs to go out on June 14th. All of you.
can I ask you something quick? Well, 2 things. One, I felt, I was proud. First, there was one that had 2 to 3 million. Then we had the one with 5 million. And it's like, good, we're getting increasing. But I think our goal should be, look at what they did in Belgrade. 1 in 6 Serbians showed up. 1 in 6. Now, if we were to do that, what do we have? 350 million or so people, 330? I don't even know where the hell we are.
There was
Go ahead.
There was a Harvard study that showed that what we call a color revolution, which, by the way, Putin warned Trump in 2018 that there would be a color revolution in the United States, like in Ukraine, the Orange Revolution, or Kazakhstan, the Rose Revolution, Georgia, the Tulip Revolution. They hate color revolutions. Those are also known as people-powered, nonviolent revolutions, which impact the government so much that they cannot ignore it. Harvard did a study and said for those revolutions to succeed, to gain the momentum behind the revolution, you require 3.5% of the population to come out. That's 12.9 million Americans, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so let me ask you the next question.
76.5 million voted against it. We can hit that number in one weekend.
We should be able to. And again, I don't interrupt you, but I think it's just important. Are these marches going to be, is this just in Washington or is this all over the country?
No, this is the beautiful part. We're not going to march in Washington. We're going to let the fool have his parade because, we honor the Army. There's going to be veterans there that, from the DC area who, if they get out there as Happy Birthday is being sung, they start chanting Trump as a C word. I mean, there's all sorts of pleasantries in store for them, but there's not going to be a Tiananmen Square moment. We don't want anyone interfering with the parade. No one should jump out in front of a freaking M1 tank with shopping bags and think that they're going to stop the parade.
But here in Cincinnati, because
Indivisible Cincinnati is organizing your march.
I have some folks I know here, and I can do my part the way David can do his. We all can wherever we are. And here is a place where, that's why I wanted to make sure that's what you're doing. I can try to get people out, and I've been out to these other ones, so I'll just go again. But
go to the website. Go to the website nokings.org. That is the Combined Alliances website for this day. June 14th is No King's Day. They have press packages there. You could actually get the cool X across the King's Crown logo and make up your own banners. The purpose of this march is to march everywhere in America except Washington, D.C.
I like that, actually. I very much like that.
The story will be if we could get 10, 20, 30 million Americans out on one day, right, with their flags for Flag Day, upside down, right side up, but to show no kings that the rest of America is against Donald Trump, they should do it. Also, there's still tickets for the parade. You're allowed to get 2 if you go to America2025.org, I believe it is, or .com. You can register for your tickets to go and attend Trump's parade. You got to put your phone number in. They'll get you a code, and then you'll
And then they'll
suddenly
text you and
remember.
ask you for money forever.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I always use a burner phone. But then you'll remember on that day that you got to go to the No Kings March and you won't attend. So there will be lots of empty bleachers there in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And of
I like
course, as the momentum builds and you go to nokings.org, if you can't make it to a major city, sign up and make a protest in your front yard. Register a protest at your house. We want you to register protests and then have 5, 10 people come. The point is to flood this country. One other thing, we at fafopac.org have the concept, there's 3 types of trouble you can get into. There's bad trouble. We don't want bad trouble. Bad trouble's bad. Then there's good trouble, right? Like John Lewis instructed us to do.
Yes.
But we have another kind of trouble that we're encouraging everyone to take part in on No King's Day. And I call this fun trouble. Go out and take over an overpass over a major highway and put up your flags and
maybe bring some
down, right side up.
tacos.
Bring some
maybe dress in
taco
a chicken suit.
signs.
I don't know.
And put a big sign over every overpass from Maine to Florida, across the I-10, the I-90, the I-40, and say no kings, right? And
here's my idea for you capitalists out there. Go out somewhere with a taco truck that day and be ready to sell them to folks. And I bet go ahead, David.
I think it's all brilliant, and I think it's all compelling. But I think the frustration that I will have, because I know a lot of the folks in the mainstream media, and I work with a lot of them, it is a lot easier for some of these lazy folks to go out and shoot nice video of an M1 tank going down Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., than it is to send your reporter to Arlington, Virginia, or Alexandria, or Richmond to find the pictures of the people who are at those overpasses saying no kings. So how do you get around the mainstream media, which for all sorts of reasons likes to describe protesters as these left-wing lunatics or extremists, and only wants to pay attention to the beautiful march in Washington?
Yeah, well, Washington, D.C. has its own indivisible groups there, right? They're not all going to be hanging out at DuPont Circle and Adams Morgan. We just insist that people do not disrupt the parade. But guess what? You can get tickets to the parade. You can bring your taco signs. And when the U.S. Army band starts singing happy birthday, Mr. President, then I think that's the time to start chanting our motto, which is no fucking kings. So,
and can I add to this, Malcolm? I mean, again, with a PR background, what I would say to folks out there is there will be local news. And so go out. You need to give them spectacle. One of like when we were had this campaign, we were running against the incumbent here in 2018, a Republican, eventually got knocked out, Congressman Steve Shabbat. He was awful. What we did was, Mike Pence was coming to town and just announced the stupid Space Force thing. So as simple as I went out dressed in an alien suit, and a few of the other people went out in Space Force suits, and we were on the cover of the Cincinnati Enquirer. That's how you hack mainstream media, is they lean conservative, obviously, and they're the Tapper Tribune, as I call them. But the one way to hack them is they love clicks. They love people to. So if you don't have a chicken suit, make up your own. If you don't have a taco suit or a taco thing, make the things that think to yourself, what will make great visuals on local news? Because local news in the end is often more important, particularly if you're in a swing state, that you get that kind of coverage. And then there's independent media. And look, not to brag about it, but David and I are sending out these newsletters now that are reaching 450 to 500,000 people. So guess what? With the views, we're going to have a lot of pictures around the country. Maybe a lot of you folks can send us stuff. I mean, we can get stuff out there if we try.
Indivisible is anchoring their anchor march, the march, which is going to be the center for the National March, is in Philadelphia. And which is a good visual in itself.
It really is.
I'm working with a documentary filmmaker, guy won 2 Oscars, and we're setting up a digital media command post where we'll be able to have people who go out on the streets. We'll do Zoom calls with indivisible
Awesome.
marches all over the United States. We'll
Distribute
probably call
clips.
you. We're going to distribute clips. And what we want to do is flood the social media at a level that no one can ignore it. And so, like I said, when Trump starts, when they start singing happy birthday, the counter should be, and I know that there's a group of veterans, they're trying to get a couple of 100 veterans in Washington, D.C. And being a veteran gives them the status to criticize at a parade
Yes,
like
it does.
this.
It's very hard for them
They
to
fully
stop that.
intend to chant "No effing kings" as loud as they can. Veterans, and then as the cameras pan back, it'll be veterans going "No effing kings." So there's your story. As Trump for the first time humiliates this country, right? Acts like he's Kim Jong Un, and and this isn't Bastille Day, okay? This is a Trump's version of May Day. He wants this to be his Soviet style demonstration of power.
Well, Ike said that, right? Ike, when they asked him why we don't do those parades, he said, because we don't need to. We're strong. The Russians are weak and they need to, that was a famous Ike quote. And that's the truth of it. Is that it's always been with Trump how weak he is. So he needs to. And so I would say even try folks who are creative out there, think of other ways. Think of like some of the visuals of some of the machinery he may have and other things that you can mock, other things about him. Again, you come up with a creative look and something interesting or a creative chant. Your local news will cover you. Your local like indie media, publication, blogs, this, that, and a lot of us these days. Malcolm has a ginormous Twitter account. David's got a very big Twitter account. I have a moderately big Twitter account. Between the three of us and many other people, we get these things out there. They can, they can reach a lot of people. Not to mention Blue Sky and Substack and YouTube and everything. So. Let's make it our business to do this.
Yeah. And, June 14th, like I said, we need to talk and shout about this as the equivalent of the 2026 election day. That this is the one day you need to come out and show your displeasure for your vote. 76.5 million people. So if they were all to show, even in their local constituencies, right? And we start getting those numbers. We have over 1,000 registered marches that are supposed to be happening around the United States. Some of them are going to be in people's front yards with kids in their, wheelbarrows, and things like that. But it's a march. It's a protest. And we want people to put up their protests on social media. I put it this way. This is the start of the Second American Revolution to save the values of the First American Revolution. It is under siege. Everything America has stood for 249 years is about to go away, and it is our job to rescue it. And if that means being disrespectfully disrespectful, well,
that's a bonus.
Start thinking like you're the Deadpool of the resistance, all right? And, two fingers up and, you're all out of fucks.
Malcolm, how do you measure success on June 14th?
The measure of success is the very fact that we're going to have a protest at all, right? This could get very unsavory very quickly.
That's true. On his special day, he could,
all I wanted to do is for him to have to contend with the fact that he only got Fox News, OAN, and Newsmax playing his stuff, and maybe a little on CNN. But the rest of the world is going to be seeing giant floating tacos. They're going to be seeing, I don't know if you went to Politicon. I went to Politicon about 5 years ago, and they had the giant chicken Trump there.
We had that in 2018, and we did it in a 4th of July parade here. That was another way that campaign against the local congressman when we were working on taking back the House, which we did, was we had a big chicken Trump and some other fun things like that. Got airplanes to fly overhead and call them chicken, and with the skywriting. And I mean, there are a lot of creative ways, and this guy gets upset and loses, blows his spadoinkle, so to speak, very easily. So
yeah, it's about spoil his day is the measure. The message is not for him. The message is for the rest of the American public. No effing kings. This fat fuck's a king, and he wants to act like it. He's gonna piss all over America's values. We're not going to let this happen without somebody saying something. But I will emphasize this: there are all sorts of antagonists out there. There is the DSA guys and the Black Bloc anarchists who are going to want to go out and do naughtiness and mischief. We are going to disavow any individual that is, whether you never know, you might be a plant, from Proud Boys or whatever. There is no violence. There is no call to violence. We are here to mock him and have fun, trouble, and laugh all damn day long, at the orange dictator.
I think that is a great plan. And again, look, it's important for people to get out there in general and regularly in protest, but this is a specific day, a specific sort of symbolism. His trying to usurp, our history, our Constitution, what that day is about, the fact that we don't have parades, as you said, for kings, for individuals, for dictators. We do it for this country. When astronauts come back and things of that nature that show that we're profoundly great for America, that's when we do it. And this asshole's never understood what being American is and never will, because it doesn't involve him stuffing money in his pockets or getting adulation from everybody. So, I just, anybody listening to this right now, I mean, unless there's some reason unless you're out of the country, unless obviously if you in some way can't make it physically, if you can't make it physically, whatever, but otherwise there's just no reason not to do this and not to send, because you'll be happy if we send the kind of message we want to send.
Well, let me tell you something. I work very closely with Democrats abroad. Anybody can have a protest anywhere in this world. All right. And I look forward to seeing the one down on the Champs-Elysees. And I was going to say,
I want to see a big taco up in the Eiffel Tower. Come on, let's do it. In the Coliseum. The Coliseum, I want to see a big chicken Trump. I mean, you could be creative about that. The Coliseum's kind of perfect. I mean,
let me tell you, Europe is so good at protesting and creating these horrible things. If you saw the March of the Middle Fingers in Germany, or the one where Trump has the Statue of Liberty and Justice in chains on their hands and knees, these people know how to do this. We're amateurs compared to them. This needs to be a South Korean level protest without the violence, right? We need to march,
look what they just did,
like they did in Belgrade.
Yep. And look at what they just did. South Korea stood up. They stood up to their right-wing president who tried to, and they impeached him. And guess what? They just elected a liberal government.
Yep.
That's Absolutely. How you inspire people, you unite people, you bring them out. You get them activated who may not have been active before. What else, David? Talk to me. You're from Bloomington.
One last thing there, stuff. Dave, one last thing I want to say is another purpose of this is to give Democratic and Republican lawmakers who are against Trump some backbone. To say, hey, this is behind you. You don't have to worry about Republicans coming out to shoot you. We're here to tell you it's okay to talk naughty to these guys.
Well, I'll tell you, as a parent, one thing that sort of makes me so happy is my daughter, who's now 11, turning 12, is very into politics and hates Trump and will say things like, "Dad, why can't we find somebody else?" And so she and my son, who's 8, their art project over the next week is making signs and designing things for June 14th in Reading, Connecticut. And I'm not exactly sure where we're going to stand or where we're going to be. It might just be on sort of the town green. But I know that my kids and some of their friends at a very young age are buying into this idea that you have a right in America to speak out and to say that, criticize and say no king. So that's where we are in Connecticut.
I say that, where's that? Where's that near? Like,
it's not just south of Danbury.
Oh, south of Danbury. I was just by there. Let me tell you, I would get that American flag bunting, and I would make American flag tacos and dress.
See what I mean?
It's gonna happen.
And then have a taco party or a pizza party. Bribes are easy with kids, right? But I think kids, high schoolers, everyone that I know, I'm going to encourage them to get out there. And, if I got to bring in 25 pizzas Trust me. I'll have people
Well,
holding up taco
I have
Tuesday signs.
I have an
I got to
18,
go
I
pick
have
up
a
the
just
kids
turned
from the bus,
18-year-old
actually.
going to
But
college.
I just want to
Oh,
say
go.
before I drop, I know you guys may chat a little longer. Malcolm, it's an honor to be on with you, and congratulations on all of your success and what you're doing to try to save this country. We're all right there with you. And if you need somebody helping your campaign in upstate New York, you got the Schuster family. We'll be right
We're
there
gonna call
for you.
you. We're gonna call you. New York City's gonna be massive.
All right, you guys.
There
Thank
you
you.
go.
Thanks, Cliff.
All right.
Hey,
Dave.
thanks so much, David.
You got it.
Now this sounds great, Malcolm, and obviously, whether it's just PR ideas, it's platforms where I can be helpful. It's I'll where are we now? The 4th. We got 10 days. I'll be promoting this in various forms between now and then. I've got a column going out today that I've written part of already. It's on this topic on the weakness of some of the Democratic responses, and so I need to give some alternatives to how do we respond. Well, I can think of one way. One way we respond is by going out and saying no fucking kings. So
That's
I'll
right.
make sure to work that in there. And we can but let's just let's keep this momentum going, because keep him off balance, keep them off balance. Because again, that ICE stuff, I have to say, I mean, seeing that stuff coming from, we have a Holocaust and Humanities Center. A lot of there's a lot of Germans in Cincinnati, and
Right.
and so a lot of German Jews actually came and settled here, and their families. And so there are a lot of families here who put money into building this Holocaust and Humanities Center. And it's not just about the Holocaust. It shows what happened in Rwanda and what happened in Bosnia, about how to prevent these things in the future. And I spoke to an old friend there. I did some PR for them back in the day, who said, like, what I saw those guys doing in that office, I want to use another word than the Gestapo, but I can't. And he's like, as he was just like, I've worked at this center. I don't use that word lightly, but I can't think of something else to call it. When it starts like that, with the face coverings and the lack of identification, it always gets somewhere else. And it's horrible enough as it is. We cannot let this continue.
I'm disgusted with ICE. I've trained thousands of law enforcement. I've trained New York State. I've trained Georgia when Al Qaeda was new. People had no idea what terrorism really was. I went around and trained all sorts of people, bomb Texan investigators, everybody. And now I have the Geheimstaatspolizei, the state secret police, the Gestapo. Right? ICE is now a lawless organization. They
really
violate the 4th Amendment to the Constitution all the time. They violate the 5th Amendment to the Constitution.
Yes, they do.
I
They
wouldn't
violate
be
the First
surprised
Amendment.
at this point.
In that case,
First
in
Amendment,
Nadler's
wait
office, it was
until they
peaceful protesters. That was the First Amendment too. I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we're half an inch from them to start quartering people in our houses. I mean, they seem to have taken on the role of the redcoats perfectly, but worse. I can tell you right now, by the way that they're carrying this out, they love to carry out this order. They love to carry out this order.
You could see it in those videos.
Seizing people. They all think that they're going after Al Qaeda members, and they're arresting 5-year-olds and zip tying them, right? And the first thing, as a person of honor and integrity, the first thing that comes out of my mouth is, "The fuck are you doing?
Well, yeah, what is your problem?
What are you doing? What is your malfunction? Why are you doing this? And don't tell me you've been given orders." Those people in San Diego,
that didn't work well at Nuremberg.
No, it didn't. Well, if you ever watch the movie Judgment at Nuremberg, I want to point something out to you. The people that were on trial were the Supreme Court of Nazi Germany, who ordered those people, who authorized those people to go out and commit mass murder. Because, as I like to point out to people, the individuals who turned Anne Frank in were obeying the law. It was Anne Frank hiding from her death that was the crime. And these people and this regime, they're not an administration. This regime has turned law on its head to be whatever Donald Trump says it is. And if that means, one other thing, Cliff, something that you might like. There has to be right now, somebody find me a rich liberal millionaire, because I don't think they exist. We can't even get $1 for most of the donations of the things we need to do. I'm not
I
joking.
know.
There's no, Edelmans out there who are handing out $100 million like
No,
he gave
we
Ben
don't have
Shapiro
that.
50 million bucks to create his network. When he was 27, he gave him 10 million. We don't have that. We're getting donations at the $5 level. And
Yep.
what I'm finding is the highest level Democratic donors will only donate to the party, the
The
infrastructure
party
when they need to.
and to PACs that will run campaign ads for members of the party.
Ads.
It's like,
And
right.
the first person I talked to when we formed this PAC came out and said, tell you what, let's target one district in 2026. And that person will use your PAC. I was like, shut up. Don't need you. We're done here. I said, we are going on jihad, right? This is what we're doing. We are going on holy war to save the first American Revolution. We're not targeting one person. We're targeting everybody, but we're targeting
that's
them
what I'm
with
saying too.
straight talk.
I've been told that people are like, well, you're being a little harsh. Maybe you shouldn't go after the media. Fuck them. If you're corporate media and you're allowing this, I'm coming after you. Well, maybe you shouldn't go after Democrats who aren't talking tough enough. No, fuck them. I'm going after them too. Maybe you shouldn't. I mean, remember the Republican Party's an opposition party. No, they're a MAGA cult of Nazis. I'm going. I launch off on them, and I don't care. No one's gonna get me to start being nice, and no one's gonna get me to stop talking the way I'm talking. I'm gonna be, as I've asked Democrats to be plain spoken. There's going to be a lot of potty language, but it's also going to be a lot of nasty metaphors and historical examples and other things, because these are evil fucking people who have an evil fucking agenda, and I'm not going to appease them, and I'm not going to be kind to them, and I'm not going to have decorum with them. They need to be destroyed.
Well, this is where we
go into oblivion.
Well, this is where we put the backbone in them to let them know they're afraid of being criticized by MAGA. We're coming out and we go, I get into it all the time with right wingers on the internet. One guy goes, oh, you got to watch out for him. He'll go and insult your mother. And I go, yeah.
I know you've told me that before. I
Suddenly,
take cheap shots too because it's fun.
Yeah, but they come out and and suddenly you have a problem with that. You just don't like an equal playing field where I can get your friends to laugh at you, right?
Oh, they
and
hate
everyone
that,
else
right?
to laugh at you. And they absolutely hate it. So when you come out at me and you go, well, you were LARPing, you were LARPing in Ukraine. And I go, hey, well, your sister mom LARPed as your parent, right? See, but they don't like that. And then, they go, well, you liberals, you're now using insults. And it's like, you can literally call for the death of my family members. And it's happened. But I can't make a joke about you.
I've had to call on a couple occasions, I had to call the FBI in the past because there were, most of them I ignore. Most of them I, don't know anything. They're cranks. But there were a few that were saying things that had actual information on me.
Right.
Or my family. And that I don't mess around with.
We just had a big blogger on Twitter, Mainwonk is his name. They doxed his restaurant just recently, yesterday. And he was like, what do I do? They came up and they took a picture of the 17-year-old who's holding a lobster at his restaurant. I go, tell us the name of your restaurant. We're going to counter dox by everyone showing up at your damn restaurant. We were like, this is the party house now. Okay, we're going to have lobster taco Tuesday every day at your restaurant. And they don't like, they're like, oh no, you were supposed to run away and hide. No, it doesn't work that way when you're fighting for America. There was a signer of the Constitution of the Declaration of Independence who because of where he lived, which was North Jersey, he sent all of his kids off to various relatives and never saw them again after the revolution. That guy sacrificed a lot for this country.
Think about it. Nathaniel Hale, there's the
Nathan
stories
Hale.
are legion of people who did. And so I think, when people say this is why some of the cowardly politicians make me sick, is that so many other people have risked so much so we can be in this positions, and they can't even risk their little political job. You know what I mean?
Somebody,
Like,
somebody actually insulted my late wife. They actually posted a picture of her
of
grave
course.
on the internet, and they think that gets me upset. She's buried in a national cemetery within sight of George Washington's statue. All right, that's an honor. But
I
as
would say
I
so. Yeah.
so some guy goes, oh, some guy makes an insult of, of something about, you're a disgrace to your dead wife. We're going to have you join your dead wife. And I was like, yeah, I'll be in heaven, but that's when I can go and tell your mom you're a dick. And they're like, where? Why would you bring his mother in? And it's like, oh, you don't like that.
I know.
Because
Isn't
liberals
it a
are
shame
supposed
when
to
we
be
turn the tide?
nice and kind and
Yeah.
supposed to take all the slings and arrows and study it over a coffee. No, we're not
You know,
playing
they
that game
whine and
anymore.
cry and bitch, and they're so pathetic. They're self-loathing and empty inside, and
Mm,
that's where they're projecting their hate onto everybody else. Because in the end,
hmm
none of the DEI stuff and all the rest of it is simply about the fact that they know if they have to compete with everybody, they're not good enough. They're not smart enough. They're not talented enough. They're not interesting enough. They're boring and they suck. And if they have to compete, they can only compete in a situation like Elon's dad in apartheid South Africa, where the emerald mine gets handed
Right,
to you because you don't have to
right.
compete with anybody of color or anybody like that's what they're used to is that kind of ease. And now suddenly,
Well,
oh my God, maybe the black guy or the brown woman or the whoever who's smarter than you will get that position instead of you, and they just can't stand it. They cannot
yeah, well,
stand it.
mediocre white guys really do exist, and we're looking. By the
Well,
way,
I mean, Pete
I
Hegseth, I think, has made that pretty clear.
well for my limited career in the U.S. intelligence community, I'm literally legislatively more qualified than Tulsi Gabbard is supposed to be a career intelligence professional, not a reservist who dropped in and out as a Congress member. She's not
No,
supposed to
I
be in
mean,
that job. But you
no.
know what?
Besides her questionable loyalties, they're not really even questionable.
Oh,
But
jeez.
but just you're right. Like, I mean, on when it comes to just the plain kind of what have you earned? What is it? What have you shown the experience, the capacity to do? And again, just like everything else is Jackass's life, it's just a reality show.
Yeah.
It's just,
Well,
no one's qualified for anything.
if I can say one last thing, it's
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I think I'm about
June.
ready to hit it, but give us
Okay.
one more word of wisdom. And I'm going to
June.
remind you before you leave that you got to have me on your YouTube show next week so we can talk
Oh,
more
yeah.
about this.
Oh, yeah. We're going to be turning out this is all about turning out numbers. If you
Let's do
voted
it.
for Kamala Harris or you voted for, someone who wasn't Donald Trump, and you're now upset with the fact that America's diving into dictatorship, this is your day. This is
Hell, even if you
our
voted for Trump and
liberation
you've
day.
realized the error of your ways,
Yeah,
I would say
that's
get out
right.
there
Joe
too.
Walsh is a great guy. We're actually trying to bring Joe Walsh into FAFO PAC.
I hope he does it.
All
I
of
love
these
Joe.
people, Joe and Robert De Niro, and a whole bunch of other people who have
Heard of
some
that guy
very
too.
strong language about Donald Trump. The point is, June 14th is your day to liberate America, to take back America. Let's show them what people power really is. And we will have fun because we're going to be laughing at Taco. We're going to be laughing at the orange chicken. We're going to be laughing at
Yep.
remember the baby Trump balloon? I still
Oh,
have
that's
15
great.
of those. I still have 15 of those Mylar balloons I'm going to be giving away,
I
out
have
at
the
the
Trump chicken
Philadelphia
still in my
protest.
basement, which we can blow up into a, we've done that a
Yeah.
few times. So from 2018. So we'll get that going too.
All right. And bring your American flags out. Show that you love America and this ain't America. No effing kings. June 14th, everywhere. Wherever you are, that's where it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They don't get to take America away from us. They don't get to take what
Mm-mm.
this country's been about, and we've often pointed out we didn't always live up to what we should have, but we've always gotten better. We've always improved, and we're not going backwards with this asshole. So, well, listen, Malcolm,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, it's a
I love
blast.
having you on because you're not a man who's difficult to talk to, so that's good. And like me, you've got a big mouth, and that's good. I consider that a compliment, by the way. And I really appreciate you bringing the message here. I think I want to do something where we blow the roof off of it, where there's so many damn people they can't ignore it. So I'm going to do everything I can do to help in that endeavor. And let's just keep chatting over the next 10 days and promoting this in as many ways as we can.
Okay, will do. See ya.
Thanks so much, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, folks, there you go. David Schuster and Malcolm Nance. I mean, come on, is that a show or is that a show? I says, yeah, I missed that. I says the whole thing, but Malcolm, I love Malcolm's passion. Yeah, I mean, his passion is, it's tangible. So it's why it's so easy to like him and also get behind what he believes in, because he can't BS you. When he believes something, he believes something, which I like to think I'm the same way. I mean, I can't go in a half-assed way. It's why I could never, work on Capitol Hill for politicians, because I can't keep my mouth shut when I strongly believe in something. Campaigns are a shorter duration. I could do it for that if I had to, but right now, no, too important. And I'm going to offend some people, but I think people who know who I am and know everything, I'm not some like leftist purist. I'm not somebody who's out there sort of, no Democrat is good enough. But at the same time, when leadership is failing us, you give them a chance, and then you have to at some point step up and say, there's better people out there who are making the point, who are arguing and making it clear and understand the moment we're in and understand how to use modern communications, how to reach people, and how to be aggressively on message all the time. And that is what we have to be if we're going to win this. So it's great to see others who get that. And I want to make sure to acknowledge the folks who were kind enough to come by. And what do we got here? Carl Jacobson, member for 8 months. Hi, Malcolm. Hi, David. Hi, Cliff. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't read that earlier, but thank you, Carl. 8 months. It's got to be probably pretty much since the beginning. We have Ohms, who's became a YouTube member. Thank you. I didn't put up Carl before. I should have. I'm sorry about that. Ohms, who became a new YouTube member. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. Very fantastic. We've got Naomi in here. I think people should show up dressed as the Statue of Liberty. That's yes. And Sheldon, of course, always coming through when it comes to supporting this channel and supporting the work I do. Thank you so much, Sheldon. Again, I say this often, but it will be acknowledged. It is acknowledged, but it will be, the appreciation will be shown, just like with Jim and just like with Cynthia and others who've just done so much here. And Lefty Gramps, and I don't know, I'm going to leave people out. I just want to say I really appreciate you so much. Yes, happy to have Malcolm as a guest. My pleasure. He always brings the heat. He's a terrific guy. I consider him a personal friend. And so, why would I not? It's like having I get the sort of honor, the pleasure of being able to do 2 shows a week with David Schuster. And that was something I never thought would happen. So I think we're just about out of time. Let's see. We've got a couple of these nice little things. So I'm going to do my usual, who's coming with me? On the way out the door, all I ask is a 99-cent super sticker, a $1.99 super chat. Anything as a good feeling stepping out the door. Look at you guys stepping up right away. Well, first of all, Mr. Android, member for how many months were you a member for, Mr. Android? I missed that. Hold on. Member for, are you also 8 months? Long live free markets and union labor. Yes. And you, wow, 8 months again. That's since the beginning. Lefty Gramps jumps in with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. You've been a huge supporter, and I appreciate the hell out of you. And Sheldon, what do I say, man? Always there, always a supporter. I says 1971, jumping in $1.09. That's what I said. Every little bit helps us do this. It's what Malcolm was saying before. We don't have the billionaires, the multimillionaires giving us these huge checks, but you know what? Like when somebody gives him $5, as he said, and I'll say the same thing about $1.99 or 99 cents, like it all helps, and I've talked to people here before, and you'll see more because there's always lots going on at the same time, but a big initiative coming up to help give some grants to smaller creators. So if you are of that, if you are a creator and you're a smaller creator on here, let me know. Because we've got a bunch of them. We've raised enough money now into 5 figures, and I don't know what the size of $500 to $1,000 grants. Again, it's not going to be money that's going to be like, oh my god, but if it allows you to do a little bit more, gives you a little more time to work on what you're doing, market what you're doing a little bit more. I want to grow an ecosystem. And the bigger deal than the grant will be that I will feature you in my newsletter. And again, and we will let you have a guest column at our newsletter or at our, whatever we want to call it, our Substack overall. And again, I'm shocked by it, ecstatic, but shocked because I've had some things go semi-big before. But the fact that we're at 560,000 subscribers means a lot of folks are seeing what we're putting out there. So it's a great opportunity to grow. I think I missed, wow, Charco B, thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. That is really awesome and kind. And I'm trying to remember if I've seen you here around here before. I hope that if I haven't, you will be around more. Not just because you gave me $9.99, but obviously you love the show or you wouldn't have done that. So you guys have been so great. And I don't even have to do any more of a who's coming with me and any of that because a bunch of people just jumped in right when we got here to support this. Thank you. Thank you to Malcolm Nance for joining us. Brilliant counterterrorism, badass fighter. Thank you to the great David Schuster, Emmy Award winning former host of MSNBC and CNN, brilliant news guy, great human being. Lucky to know these people as I'm lucky to have you guys here. So last thing I'll say, remember, tomorrow is the Substack only show. That's the condition for them to promote it. We have the fantastic Shannon Watts joining us. Shannon has a new book, which I had around here the other day, and I showed Fired Up. I think I put it in my bag, and I took it home, so I'm reading it. But Shannon, I've known for a long time. So it's not long after she founded Moms Demand Action. I was doing work for Bloomberg's group then, and the many ways it's hard to believe because we still see gun violence in this country, but you don't get how much of a difference her group made in changing the culture and in changing a lot of discussion around guns, and really passing numerous laws in very many states. The laws that were passed under Biden that closed loopholes that terrorized women and allowed for trafficking. She's just done a lot of good. So you guys, fantastic, awesome. I hope you like the rant up front. Again, I hope we get to a point where I don't have to ever criticize Democrats again, but I'm going to do it until we're on a war footing. And I mean political war footing. I don't mean violence, because we need to be smashing their faces in politically every day, holding them to the same account that would hold us to. I want people talking every day how the 48 million of 49 million jobs created under the last 6 presidents were under Democrats. People talking every day about the record-breaking jobs numbers under Biden, about the fact that Donald Trump, his tariffs he had one of the worst job months in the history of this country, including the Great Depression. The fact that he's a convict, he's a 34-count felon. All right. These are messages. These are things that should be repeated all the damn time. All right. It shouldn't be close. And if we had a mainstream media doing their job, it would be, but we don't. So we've got to do it. So here I am doing my best. That's all I got. Listen, guys, keep on keeping on. Please come back by the Substack show tomorrow. The easiest way, blueamp.co. I'll put it in there. You can go and subscribe. I ask you whether you're on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, LinkedIn. I know we're reaching plenty of places today. Please come and subscribe and help us grow this thing, because we don't know what it's going to become, but 560,000 people can make a real impact. So we're in a position where you combine that with the 120,000 on YouTube and some of the other platforms, and we can get messages out there, and that's really important to me, because Jake Tapper ain't going to do it. All right, my friends, you've been awesome, and thank you for tuning in. And as you know, as the sun sets slowly in the west, I bid you all a fond farewell.